Welcome to another episode of Chax Chat. Join Chad Chelius and me, Dax Castro, where each week we wax poetic about document accessibility topics, tips, and the struggle of remediation and compliance. So sit back, grab your favorite mug of whatever, and let's get started.
Welcome, everyone, to the Chax Chat podcast. Dax and I are currently in the process, or I should say still in the process, of preparing for our Adobe Max sessions coming up October 28th to 30th. Chax is going to have a booth at Adobe Max this year, which we're super excited about, and we'd love to see you there if you plan on attending Adobe Max this year. And just so everybody knows, some of the Adobe Max sessions are also available online this year, so if you're not able to make it to LA, you could join online. My name is Chad Chelius. I'm an Adobe certified instructor and one of the accessibility wizards here at Chax Training and Consulting.
And my name is Dax Castro. I am also one of the accessibility wizards here at Chax Training and Consulting. And Chad and I are both certified as accessible document specialists. And if you'd like your certification, head on over to accessibilityassociation.org/certifications and get yours today. At least get some more information about it for sure. Yeah, awesome. Well, Chad, today, no banter, no talk. We've got lots of we've got lots of stuff to talk about. So I want to introduce our two guests. We have Shireen Salma, who's the product manager at Microsoft, and Ylva Kravis, who's the engineering manager at Microsoft. And both of them are working on Microsoft Office accessibility. So welcome you two to the podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Thanks for having us.
We're excited to have you.
Absolutely. We, full disclosure for everyone listening, right? We have had a pretty close relationship with Clint Covington at Microsoft for probably 3 years now, maybe 4 years. And we've had chats back and forth about certain things. And unbeknownst to us, probably last year or so, you guys rolled out some huge improvements to Microsoft Office and are still rolling out improvements. And Chad and I talk a lot with different programs, authors, Canva. We talk with the Adobe teams. We talk with you guys. We talk with Venngage and several of the other tools that we use for remediation. But we know those engines run really slow. It's hard to implement change, but you guys have done a great job at implementing some of the things that we have been hoping would come down the line. And so we're excited to talk to you guys about that today.
And thank you for all the feedback, right? That all those conversations that we were able to take in and make those improvements. It's always great to hear from the community and what improvements they're looking for. So thank you for being a partner there.
Chad, I would say the first one, it impacts you more than me, right? The tool that has been introduced recently to the Office suite, well, at least to PowerPoint, right, is the reading order tool, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool because Microsoft implemented that a while back, right? But it was for Windows only. Right. So Dax was always like, look at me. I've got something special. And, and I'm like, man, that would be really nice to have, on the Mac side too. But now, you guys implemented that, across platforms. Right. And so now even as a Mac user, I have access to a much more logical way of structuring the reading order of my content, in PowerPoint. So very exciting stuff.
And for those of you who don't know about the reading order tool, right, or maybe haven't used it or didn't know that it's been implemented for both, the major improvements were that before we just had the selection pane and it was just the object order on the page. And there was a little eyeball. You could turn the eyeball on and off, but it wasn't to make anything decorative. Literally, it hid or showed what was on screen. And then you had the ability to lock some items, which I did actually use quite a bit to lock certain things down so that as I selected pieces of groups, I could just get what I wanted. But the reading order panel is so powerful because first, it orders in number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on down the line. And it's very visual, so you can see exactly what the order is. Then there's a checkbox where you can check or uncheck decorative items. And then you can double click right into the text to the right of that item name and actually add the alt text for it. So it's super powerful. It's a really great improvement because when you're teaching that tool, everything is logical and intuitive. So are there any plans that you can let us know? Any other improvements you're working on for the reading order panel?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of improvements that we are going through. One is giving the users the ability to sort by row and sort by column. It's more or less thinking about either you want by vertically sorted or horizontally sorted. I think it was more a very complex engineering problem. I'll let Ylva talk about it in a moment, because when you want to sort it up, you don't want to change the visual order if there are multiple stacking objects. You want to preserve it, right? Because the moment we sort by row and then it jumbles up and the user's like, where did my text box disappear behind this image, right? So you don't want that to happen. So yeah, it was quite an interesting engineering problem as well to solve.
Awesome. Ylva, did you want to talk some more about that? What were some of the challenges for you? Or what was that epiphany moment like when you guys got it, right?
It was a rather long journey that had multiple iterations, and super grateful for collaboration with PowerPoint team, who actually went and multiple times tried helping and figuring out how that works. But the main problem, I can just... There were lots of things that along the way we solved, but one interesting thing, at some point we were even looking into algorithms, how chess games are made, and taking that at some point as a base can be used that to improve the sorting. So it's been a fantastic journey that actually would, I think, take its own session to actually talk about the engineering challenges there.
Now, just for clarity, right? So you're saying the ability to sort by row or by column, right? You're not just talking about tables, right? Like you're talking about the entire page? Yes.
So your entire slides, it's sorted either by row or by column. So taking the x-axis or y-axis first in a logical way that would also resolve accessibility checker. There are some logic in there. For example, the title, regardless, even the title isn't the first element by X or Y, it still would be the very first element. So there are some additional things. It's not just simply taking all the elements and sorting them horizontally or vertically. And as Shireen mentioned, there's also a lot of logic to, things are three-dimensional in presentation. You can have background object and front object, and you want to be able to sort them without that sorting moving some elements in behind of others. So it's more complicated than just sorting by horizontal vertical, but that does apply to the whole slide.
Okay. And I mean, what you're basically doing is giving people a more, an easier way to set the order of content, right? Because otherwise it's completely manual, right? Like everybody's got to go on every slide and manually drag and adjust everything. And you're saying, you know what? A lot of times the content on a slide, we could say, well, just order it, left to right, top, bottom, or, kind of like the reverse where you're saying by row or by column. And that's really an exciting feature that's going to, I think, save people a lot of time. I think that's a really great implementation.
Yeah. And let's be realistic. In real world, these automatic sorting, I actually have seen your episode, how automation often fails checkers. The issues that the checker will miss, that will accept, but it's not making document more accessible. And you talked about it there. Yeah, automatic solutions doesn't solve everything. So we would still encourage users to use it as a base, that you don't have to figure out the base things, but you probably still need to manually go and address what actually will make most sense for the end consumer of the presentation.
Can I make a suggestion, right? So like when you're in the reading order pane, it'd be really cool if you put the number on the object on the slide, so that you could like visual. Are you working on that?
We have it, yes.
Love it. Love it.
That would be great.
That would be really cool. Yeah.
You know, the other thing that I've heard in several classes when we teach PowerPoint is the ability to tell the checker, hey, I've checked the reading order. So right now it says, hey, go check the reading order on this slide. We're not sure that you've got it right based on the objects that are on the slide. And every time you run the checker, it will still go back and tell you, hey, you've got stuff out of order. So it would be great to be able to say, no, I've checked that reading order and I verify that it is the right thing. So, you know, maybe if you add that to your log, that would be awesome.
Well, and I think what makes the reading order pane so exciting, right? Because if we go back and remember what it was like in the selection pane, remember we had to order content from bottom to top. Right. Which is very backwards, right? Which is very, you're just like, you know, even I still have to do that in InDesign, right? When I'm setting the reading order. And it's like, it's a brain, you know, jumble, you know, you're just like, oh my God, this is so unnatural. But what's also cool, in addition to being able to add alt text directly in the reading order pane, you can also mark items as decorative, right? And what's really cool is when you do that, then the check mark next to the object gets unchecked, right? So that you know, oh, I don't need to worry about this because we're not going to have that object read. So really, really great implementation, guys. I give you a lot of kudos. I love it.
Thank you. In addition, you can even group objects. You can select and do Control G, right? So it also works.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you can give an alt text to the group. So yes.
However, you should have a warning that if there is a group, if you make a group and some object in the group already has alt text, you should have a little pop-up that says, hey, are you sure you want to make this group? Because you have items that already have alt text, because you will get an error for nested alt text when you export to PDF if you have a core object and then sub objects that both have alt text. So you can only have one alt text on a group. So definitely.
Do you just do Command G to group them?
I haven't done in Mac, but in Windows is Control G.
Yeah, it's not working for me. So I don't know. Maybe you guys can give me a little tip after this podcast. I'd love to figure out how that works.
Yeah, I haven't tried much on the grouping on Mac, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, Control G on Windows should work, but yeah, we can check that after.
Oh, in fact, yeah, there we go. And then Control G. No, it doesn't work on PC either.
Okay.
I'm in the reading order. So we'll talk about that offline, and we'll let people maybe know, and we'll post on our Facebook group. For those of you who don't know, we have over 5,500 members in our Facebook group now. Really, really excited about that. So we'll post on there whatever we find out about the grouping of objects in the reading order. But you know what would be another amazing feature for the reading order is if I could right-click on an actual item in the reading order and set it as the heading. That would be amazing, right? Right now, we'll segue into another improvement, but there is a new improvement with the accessibility assistant that says, hey, you have no header, no heading on your slide, no slide title. And we think this is your slide title. Do you want to set it as the heading, which I think is a fantastic improvement. But it would be super to be able to just right click on a reading order item and say, hey, this is my heading.
I'm writing things down in the background.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we go ahead.
Sorry, on the side note, I just tried it out. So if you Control press multiple objects, Control 1, Control 2, and then Control G, it works. It groups for me.
So let me go ahead and share screen because I actually happen to have one open. Here we are, right? So there's the title and there's the footer. Let's just grab those two. I've selected them both. And if I do Control G, I hear beep, 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 beep on my end.
I don't think you can group a title, right? So if you try two text boxes or maybe you can try on this one, try oval and text box or.
Yeah, we'll just grab all of these and do Control G. Oh, there it does. So it does work. So for those of you listening, right? we just tested this out. And this is one of the great things about the podcast is when we have a question, we just go figure it out, right? So we went in and did a little test. So if you grab a title and an object, it won't let you group it, but any other sub objects, it will let you, which I think is a good idea, right? Because you don't want to inadvertently assign a group the title of your slide. So good stuff. Good stuff. Awesome. So let's talk about alt text, right? One of the improvements that I know you guys have made recently, which was really great, is the you have started to flag in the Microsoft Assistant, the accessibility assistant, if alt text was automatically generated, and you allow the user to approve that alt text. Because before, if someone had done automatic alt text, you had no idea that it was in the document. The only time you'd ever know was if you inspected every element. So huge improvement. But talk to us some more about the actual quality of the alt text that's now being generated inside the Office Suite.
Well, so I mean, I think you would be more appropriate on the reason slide, but in short, the alt text that we had thus far, it was generating reasonable descriptions, especially for pictures. So far, it was machine learning, tagging of the images, so it could tell you that a photograph of family with a dog, but in a lot of cases, we would have less helpful descriptions.
Image of sunglasses.
That's the one
we got that one a lot.
Time.
That's the one we would get all the time, where you go to write automatic alt text, and it would say image of sunglasses, which was interesting.
I think the most frequent I've seen is like screenshot of a computer. So when
Yes.
we were working on the project, I was like, if I see another screenshot of the computer, I'm going to jump out of the window. Because most of the times in Office content, you have screenshots. People just put screenshots of charts or screenshots of graphic user interface, any design that they did, and they just grab a screenshot and they put it, which is not natural photographs. And that's where our quality of descriptions lacked the most.
Yeah, and if you're working in with software and you're making a product deck, and I can tell that PowerPoint has more violations in documents than other apps, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's most of the case the alt text, because a lot of graphical content. But yeah, you have basically each slide, as Shireen says, a screenshot of a software or a graph or a table, because unfortunately a lot of people do make screenshots of a table instead of posting actual tables. And so what we're doing is we are changing how we are generating. If previously it was, tagging, then right now we're using AI and image recognition to generate more meaningful, more qualitative alt text for these images. So thus far, we are currently local inner links with the picture, but you have a photograph of a graph, and it will actually go, and the model will describe this graph contains, let's say, population over time in certain region, or this is how many people over time have pets as a household. It will tell you overall trends. It can parse the text, so even some smaller source that's on the picture, so it gets all the information. It interprets it, and you get very reasonable context that talking to community is way more useful than just knowing that it's a screenshot of a graph, or way more useful than anything a document creator will provide in that alt text field as information.
One of the things I noticed is that if you crop an image, the auto-generate alt text still evaluates the uncropped version.
Yeah.
It won't recognize only the cropped area.
Well, Chad, what you can do in that case is crop it, and then you right click for a PC, it's right click. You can do save as picture, and then save the picture out as a actual picture, and that will remove the crop and actually create that new image. And then you can reapply the alt text, right, Shireen?
That's true. Yeah, because even if you crop the image, you can go and uncrop it because the whole image is still living in the document. So when you're asking for an alt text, the model is processing what is living in the document, which is the entire image. Although in the viewport, you only see a portion of the image as such.
Especially since thus far, we automatically generated text upon insertion. So it doesn't matter, like, it's very interesting technical challenge. How do you treat pictures being edited if they already had alt text? I'm not sure what is the correct answer there. It's just an interesting challenge. Sorry, Shireen, go ahead.
Yeah, no, touching base upon what Ylva said earlier, right? How the community gave us the feedback. We followed something called the ACRU framework, like accuracy, completeness. Is it relevant? Is it useful? Is it exceptional? So when we did the comparison to previous models, not to say that our older version was not accurate, because a screenshot of a computer is still accurate description, but it was not complete or useful, right?
Gotcha.
So that's when we were looking at, evaluating different models to say, is it ranking good in all the metrics? So where the most important being whether it's like relevant, useful, complete overall, right? Not just being accurate. And then we made the switch and giving the users the conscious choice to say, I want to add alt text. So therefore I go and generate alt text and I'm verifying it, editing it, or approving it rather than, just adding alt text to everything. So giving that conscious decision to the user to be like, I want to go and make this accessible. So those are a couple of changes coming in.
I will say there is an improvement I'd love in the area of alt text. Right now, if people use SmartArt and the SmartArt contains shapes, like an arrow or a cog, or some of the SmartArt contains some complex shapes. The PowerPoint and Word will append my alt text. So if I say 3-step diagram showing step 1, step 2, and step 3, and I use that little cog graphic, right? When I export to PDF, it'll actually add the word arrow or box or cog in parentheses to the end of my alt text. And while I get that alt text was probably assigned to one of the library items that built that graphic, it's not super useful for me to have to go in and hunt them all down and then delete those out.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. We can definitely take that feedback to see how we can improve it. Sorry, Chad, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's great that it adds the alt text, but if I have to go into every one and delete the fact that it was generated with medium confidence, or what was the one that I just got? It says AI generated content may be incorrect, right? Yeah. Like we would never want to actually include that, as part of the alt text. So even if there was, the ability to search in alt text, or I don't know what the fix is.
Well, what would be cool is if you hit approve. If you hit approve, then that phrase would go away.
But it goes away, and I have quick fix.
It does, Dax. If you approve it, that disappears.
That's super. Chad's given the hang loose sign. Yeah, absolutely. You guys are thinking ahead. You're already solving problems before we even bring them up.
That is really cool. I never noticed that because I never approved it before, right? I'm just like, I don't have to approve it. It's there, right? But that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think it's part of our responsible AI guidelines because it's generated by AI, and we definitely would like a human to verify it. If a human has not verified it, we would want the screen reader user to know, okay, this was generated by AI, right? So maybe it's inaccurate. As much as we wish, sometimes very rarely do AI hallucinate. So especially if you have a lot of numbers, maybe it does read the numbers slightly differently. So it's good to put that disclaimer out there if a human has not verified the alt text.
Here's an idea, right? Have a button that says alt text approval mode. And approval mode will bring up a thumbnail of every image in your slide deck, allowing you to say approve, don't approve, approve, don't approve.
Ylva's holding her hand up.
Generated text, just insert them right now. Go in your document and add multiple images with generated text. And if you have at least 3, watch what happens. when you are in assistant pane.
So she's saying if you have 3 images in your document,
Or more.
right, and they all have automatically generated alt text, look what happens in the accessibility assistant.
Now, fingers crossed that he still works. It's been months till I checked.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. We really love having these conversations with you guys because it's definitely, there's things that we don't always know as instructors that have been implemented. And I think definitely we'd love to stay in contact with you guys. And as new features are released, because we're teaching this tool every single week, Chad's mouth just hit the floor. So Chad, fill us in.
Oh my gosh. You did what I just asked you to do, right? So yeah, she's right. If you go to the accessibility assistant, then one of the options is review alt text. And you go in there and it has a list of every image in your document, and you can put a check mark next to the ones you want to approve. And then at the bottom, it says approve selected. And then they all, yeah, that's pretty darn good. I mean, I would love to be able to see what each image is. I think that would be helpful, but this is really cool. Like, this is really, really quite cool. I love it.
I think as you select an image, doesn't it move? Although, wait, I'm not sure whenever you're Windows or Mac.
It should take the focus to the image.
You know what? You're right. It highlights it. I put them all on one slide, so it's probably not a good, you know what I mean? It's probably not a good representative. Let me paste one on here.
To be fair, we went over some design iterations. The thumbnail was more about the real estate, like how much.
Sure.
Yeah. So like, okay, for now, let's get feedback. Yeah.
If you don't want that pane to take over your entire window, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's switch gears a bit here and talk about some Word improvements, some improvements to Word. One of the ones that I know that Chad and I teach as one of the core things that is improved is how floating images are handled inside Word. So talk a bit about that for us.
Yeah, I think if you have been using Accessibility Assistant for a while and quite good with that, you would notice we no longer flag floating images because by design, we have made them accessible. What I mean by that, when you insert an image in Word, earlier we would always ask, it has to be inline, otherwise it's not accessible, right?
Right.
And when you and even when we were like users go and fix it and it snaps inline, it just changes the text orientation.
Yes.
And people are like, what did happen to my document? and I was personally watching some of the user feedback. We sent it out to users and asking them to fix issues and the videos, and people were like, how is this more accessible? It doesn't look good, right? And so we made images accessible by default. And when you insert an image, there's now an anchor that tells where you want this image to be read out. Because at the end of the day, Word document is linear, now top to bottom, left to right, right to left, depending on the language. So you can place the anchor where that image, all text or the image as such content needs to be read out. So since now, anywhere you place the image, whether it's floating in front of the text, back of the text, tight, whatever is your orientation, text wrap, it will read out where the anchor is. And users have the ability to move the anchors. And if you're using a screen reader and you want to place focus on the image, because of course you hear where the image is, but maybe I'm editing the document and I want to place focus, Control-Alt-G is your friend. You press that hotkey and it immediately places focus on the image, and you can just tab around to all the different images in the document and you can edit them, move them, etc. So it is not only accessible that as a user, I'm consuming it where I know what the alt text is, where it is, but I'm also able to edit it if I'm using a screen reader, for example. So therefore, we have reduced the burden on the authors to be like, place it in line or otherwise. So that no longer applies.
I will say, though, when you say place the anchor anywhere, it's not quite anywhere. It's at the beginning or end of a paragraph. And there have been lots of instances where someone in the course of a paragraph will say, blah, 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 see figure 4. and they want that image to be anchored right after the word, see figure 4, and then it continues on with the same paragraph. And we've heard some frustration where people are like, look, I want to anchor this image in the middle of this paragraph so it's read in sequence. And our fix tells them, well, you have to add a hard return there or break the paragraphs apart so that you can add it. And some are like, okay, no problem. Others people have said, I don't want to do that because of, the way the layout is or the way it flows. So I know that that's a bit harder because then you have to break the paragraph into 2 paragraphs or a span tag and all sorts of stuff. It gets complicated. But yeah, that's a little bit of feedback we've heard from some of the people, but still a great feature because before, like you said, we would constantly be telling people, look, it's going to tell you all objects need to be in line. You can ignore that. It doesn't matter. And it was so nice that you guys have now removed that check. So yeah, good stuff.
Thank you. It's definitely a step forward and there's definitely room for improvement for sure.
The other thing that I think is interesting, let's switch over and talk about tables here a bit, right? Now, I know that when you run the accessibility assistant, which, by the way, for anybody who hasn't done this in a while, go run the assistant. It's great. It really does a great job at walking you through all the different elements that are going on with your document. But one of the areas I think is it will identify a table as a layout table. There are times when I run the assistant and it says, hey, we think this is a layout table. Do you want to mark it as a layout table? And I have not figured out what triggers that because it will do it sometimes. And then when I want it to do it, because I want to be able to select a table and say, this is really just laying out these 4 paragraphs. I'd really like this to be labeled as a layout table so that when you export to PDF, I don't have the table structure. I just have my paragraphs. Can you talk more about how you guys implemented that layout table feature and kind of what we're running into?
Yeah. So if a table doesn't have any headers marked, whenever you have a table under the table ribbon, there are different options, check boxes. You have a header row, first column, etc. So if you have not checked the header row, by default, any table that you insert, the header row is checked by default. The first row is marked as header. If you have consciously went ahead and be like, okay, the first row is not a header, then the checker or the app thinks maybe it's a layout table. And that's when it shows you that that's the trigger.
Oh, so that's the trigger.
There you go.
Trigger. So if you just go in there and turn them off, Dax, then you should be able to identify that as a layout table. That's a great tip right there, right? Because that was eluding me as well. Because I'm like, wait a minute, like sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't. But the fact that Word makes the header row by default when you insert a table probably is causing that not to show up most of the time, right? Like you have to actually actively go in and turn that off. So that's great. Great tip.
I will give you one more tip. So if you don't want to unhide the headers and everything else, when you go in table design, under plain tables, there's a style table normal. That is essentially a layout table.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
Awesome. So if you're using table styles and you use the normal table, then that basically sets it as a layout table as well. Awesome. Good to know. Chet?
So I have a question related to tables that we're talking about. Dax and I have encountered certain situations where Word is automatically adding scope to a table. Like when you identify, but just turning on header row or first column doesn't seem to do that. It only seems to assign the scope if you use like a table style. Can you talk about that?
Can you clarify what you mean by scope?
So a table has a column header or a row header, right? And when they are a column header, the scope is column. It is a property of the TH, the table header cell. Or if it's the first column, it's a row header, and the TH's property is the scope is row. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think today, the accessibility assistant checks for a header row. If you don't have a header row, we like, oh, there's no table header. But we understand that a table could have a header row or a header column, right? Or both.
Right.
So in case if you have a header column earlier or today, as of today, it still flags that you need to have a header row, but we have made the change coming out very soon, right, Ylva? So if you have the first column marked as header, we will not be flagging that issue anymore.
Which is great, which isn't what he's talking about, but still great. So to reiterate for those people listening, before, like when you make a table, we know that you can have a column header or a row header or both, just like Shireen said. But if your table had only a row header, the accessibility assistant would always flag that and say, hey, your table needs to have column headers or is missing headers. And we're like, no, it has row headers. It only needs row headers. And you should give me the ability to manually override that. But what you're saying is now it's not even it's going to look for one or the other or both and allow that to be. So what Chad is talking about is that sometimes the table will get exported and those header rows will be identified or columns as a TH correctly, but the scope will be missing. The property that tells the screen reader, hey, read, this is the thing for the things below it, or this is the label for the things to the right of it, that scope property isn't set. And we have to go into the PDF and manually set it.
Manually do it. Okay, it's more about the export properties which are not being exported properly. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
I'm writing it down and adding it to the list from this conversation on some things that we need to consider or explore.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, Chad, you can send them over some samples and we can maybe make some progress in that area. I will tell you, in addition to having a table be marked as a layout table, there are often two ways that people want those tables to be read. When it's a layout table, think of a grid of 4 items for 2 rows, 2 columns. Sometimes the user wants the reading order to be first column, first cell, first column, second cell. So top down, read all the things in the first column, then move over and read all the things in the second column. Other times, people, when they have a layout table, want things to be read left to right. So cell 1 in column 1, cell 1 in column 2, and then in the bottom. So it would be great if when you mark something as a layout table, give me the option to say, read this when you make this layout table, the order is left to right or top to bottom.
Okay. Yeah. Today it's defaults what the word or what your default language is. Right? If it's an RT language, it's going to just read left to right and then top to bottom, or otherwise. Yeah, there's not an ability to set, especially for layout tables. I want it in a specific way to read. Yeah.
Because I can think of instances for some of our medical agencies that have a series of columns for each of the different plans, like silver plan, platinum plan, whatever plan. And they make these tables and they want it to be read down one column for each. Right. And so sometimes those could be considered a layout table and they'd want that reading order to be top down, not left to right. So, yeah, definitely could be a good addition.
This would be specific to immersive reader view, I imagine, right? Because if you're in edit view, you are typically tabbing over the different cells and reading as the screen reader is reading for you.
This is more about exporting to PDF.
Export to PDF. Okay.
Yeah. This is another thing on exporting to PDF. It would be great, and I don't know if you can do this because this is kind of treading into the Acrobat world. It would be great if Microsoft had a little pop-up window when someone tried to hit export to Adobe PDF that says, hey, we've done some really good work and tried to improve our export engine in Microsoft quite a bit. Consider exporting using file save as instead of this button, because we have people who have been taught the opposite, have said always use the Adobe export to Adobe PDF. But what Chad and I have been doing for like the last year or more than last year is telling people don't use that button because it hasn't been updated by Adobe. Adobe, if you're listening, hint, hint. It hasn't been updated by Adobe in quite a while. And because of the improvements you guys have made, file, save as, and then change that to PDF produces much more desirable results.
If that's the case, wouldn't it be better that also the export button gets updated to just work as save as PDF?
Yeah, it would be great if you had a button that was save. So right now, when you have the Acrobat plugin installed, right, for PowerPoint, there's a button that says save as Adobe PDF, right? It would be great if there was another button right below it that says save as Microsoft PDF. Then I wouldn't have to teach people to go into File, Save As, click the drop down, change it to PDF, and all of that. That there would be a button there that they could just press and know that they're doing it the right way.
By the way, there is a button under Export View that does create PDFs, XPS files without pressing Save As.
So I'm in the export feature. I see export using Access Slide, which is a plugin for PowerPoint, create Adobe PDF. And then there is create PDF XPS document. So you're saying that create PDF /XPF document uses the Microsoft engine to export?
Because that's the default one we have. I don't have any plugins yet.
I think the XPS might be throwing people off. They're not sure because I don't even know what XPS is.
Yeah, but once you click it, it opens the same dialog as Save as PDF dialog.
It does. In fact, yeah, exactly. So awesome.
Okay.
Well, we can teach that way. So instead of save as, we can just say click export and then create PDF XPS document. Can you tell us, just because I'm curious, what is XPS document?
XML paper specification developed by Adobe. No, so that's PDF, but that is Microsoft equivalent to PDF and it's XML.
XML. Yeah, see, that's why I think you could kill that and it would make it so much easier for people to understand that's the button I need to press.
Or perhaps make it 2 buttons.
Yeah, sure. Make it 2 buttons. Yeah.
So people don't get confused. What is that, and can I even use it?
You know what? Another thing would be really cool in this file info area would be a running log of the accessibility improvements that have been done to Office or PowerPoint, the program specific. It would be amazing to be able to go in there from time to time and look at, oh my gosh, look, they fixed this, or they did that, or they implemented this from an accessibility standpoint, to have an update log, or even just a link to a web page that has a log of what you guys have improved. Because I think I'm interested. I think it's really great stuff.
Definitely. I do think we post from time to time on Insider's blog post whenever we do make improvements. There are a few on the pipeline as well. So definitely can share those, or happy to share like a post that you can post it on.
Yeah, that would be great. I know when I open NVDA and NVDA has changed or updated their program, they give me a little pop-up screen that says, hey, you want to see what the new improvements are? And you can go to a web page and, or you can say no, and it just clicks right through, but you can go to a web page. So awesome. All right. So we talked about the alt text improvement within all of the engine, all of the programs. We've talked about floating objects and how you have the ability to anchor them in certain areas. We've talked about the tables and how they're being exported with the correct column or row header, and the ability now to only set a row header. I will have one more for the tables area. I would love to be able to select multiple columns or multiple rows and assign them as headers. That would be great. Right now, there is a trick. And the trick is that you can only do it for column headers. And so if you have a table, even if it doesn't span multiple pages, you can select the first 2 or 3 rows, however many rows you need for your column headers, and then go into the table properties and say repeat as header on on every page. I think that's not quite what it says, but something like that. And when you check that box, then it will assign multiple column headers, but you can't set multiple row headers at all yet.
That's a neat trick. Now we learned something new.
Yeah. So you guys are learning something new. Awesome.
Yes. And I'm writing that one down as well. Because, I mean, if it supports columns, it should support rows and vice versa.
Yeah, awesome. And then we talked about the PowerPoint reading order and the improvements there. And then the ability to, within that, setting the reading order automatically, which we think is one of the most arduous tasks in PowerPoint. When we teach people about accessibility for PowerPoint, we teach color contrast and use of color alone and animations and using slide masters and all of that. And most everybody gets all that stuff. But when we get to the part where we say, okay, and now you have to spend an hour going through and organizing every one of these objects in order, they all sigh and go, really? So I'm super excited about the ability to sort the content automatically. So good stuff. Awesome. Well, is there anything new before we close out that you guys would like to share with the audience about what's coming up or how they can join the Insiders Club or anything you'd like to share?
Well, going forward, once we roll out, because we are just beginning of the rollout, it will be okay to use merge cells in your headers. Currently, it's okay, but assistive technologies can parse them correctly. So for smaller tables, it's okay to use them, or any tables, actually, Shireen.
Any tables. So am I understanding this correctly, Ylva, that you're going to apply the span feature in the PDF after it's been exported?
We need to double check on the PDF export tags. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the main learnings for myself out of this call, that we should pay way more attention to export the PDF, because we usually look at, direct document creation consumption. Forgetting the PDF export the PDF is very important scenario.
Yeah. So you're saying that the merge cell will be okay in Word or in PowerPoint?
Both.
We have to double check. If it's not okay with PDF, we probably should rethink that.
Okay. It's a simple attribute, right? It's a simple attribute you guys just have to write into the PDF, and then the PDF will be fine as well.
Yeah, and currently, I believe that it actually does set the span for those merged cells when we export. The problem is that in the live, what we teach is typically, if you want to have merged cells in your document, that's fine, as long as you're not giving someone a live Word doc as your source file or as your final file. If your final deliverable is a PDF, you can have merged cells all day long, and it's going to read just fine. So it sounds like you're solving that other problem of, will it read correctly inside the live Word doc, which I think is a huge kudos to you guys for tackling that. So thank you.
I think there's one another on standard red color. We have improved the contrast of the red color in Word, Excel, Word and PowerPoint, Outlook, OneNote as well. Yeah. So I think red is one of the most used color, second to like automatic or black. But unfortunately, the current red color, or so far what it was, did not meet the WCAG standard on a white background, right? It would always flag. So if you're using it to highlight something to catch attention, you have to fix it. Otherwise, it's not accessible. Although it's really close to the contrast ratio.
I think it's 2.8. Yeah, it's really close.
Yeah, but I think for smaller fonts, you need to be like 4.5, like 12 or something.
Right.
And it was around 3.9 or 4 for smaller fonts.
Oh, okay, sure.
It is not a problem in PowerPoint, because PowerPoint, the standard font size is 18. And for 18, we are good. The 4 works. But 4.5 is for smaller fonts. So we did go ahead and roll that change. So your favorite red color is now accessible.
That's awesome. That brings me up to one. I know we said we're closing out here, but I want to ask one more thing. So most people don't know that there is a show in grayscale mode for PowerPoint. I will say I've done some comparison between showing as grayscale and the colorblind simulators that I use. We use a couple of different ones, SimDaltonism or the Microsoft Color Simulations. They aren't, the show in grayscale doesn't always accurately portray the colorblind simulator mode. So if you look at what might show in grayscale as, hey, these look like the same colors, if you look at it with a colorblind checker, it'll actually show them as two different, distinctly different. Is there any thought on adding so deuteranopia is the most prevalent color blindness. It's red-green color blindness. Is there any thought on maybe adding a deuteranopia button there so it's not just grayscale?
Currently, it's not in the roadmap, but we can definitely look at it as an ask. The official features like inspect without color, I think that's what you're referring to in PowerPoint, especially. Yeah. And we don't have this currently, but we can definitely look at it. Yeah, to go ahead and see what we can do.
All right. Well, this has been an information-packed podcast. We really appreciate you guys and being brave enough to come on and withstand the firing squad that is Chad and I. We love you guys, and we love teaching the Microsoft products. And really, most importantly, we love that you guys really are focusing on accessibility. I know a lot of remediators get frustrated because they feel like they're fixing the same things over and over again. And it's really great that you guys are taking that advice, taking that feedback and actually doing something about it.
Well, thank you so much for having us. And thank you for being a great partner to give all the feedback from the community. And we will continue to learn and continue to improve. Thank you.
Absolutely. I know I learned a lot today, so I'm super excited. Anytime I learn something new, I'm happy. So, well, listen, guys, we're going to thank everybody for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed having Ylva and Shireen on from Microsoft. I think we all took a lot away from this episode. My name is Chad Chelius.
And my name is Dax Castro, where every other week we unravel accessibility for you.
Thanks, guys.